Have you ever trusted someone only to feel the sting of betrayal cut deeper than any wound on the skin? Trust is fragile, like glass. Once cracked, it never shines the same way again. We often think loyalty is built slowly through years of shared moments, only to watch it shatter in a single careless act. And in that silence after the break, you wonder, was I blind, or were they always showing me who they really were? The Stoics taught us that life is less about what others do, and more about what we choose to see. Trust is not something we can hand out blindly, like coins scattered in the street. It is the foundation of every bond, friendship, love, family, even the strangers we let close. But not everyone deserves a place within that circle. Some wear masks of charm, others speak sweet words while hiding sharp intentions. So the real question is, who should you let in? Stay with me and we'll walk carefully through the shadows together. As we step into the first chapter of this journey, imagine walking into a room where every smile feels a little too rehearsed, every gesture too perfectly timed. There's a warmth in the air, but something beneath it chills your bones. You sense it, though you cannot yet name it, that quiet pull, that invisible string tugging you towards someone else's agenda. Now ask yourself this. How many times have you given someone the benefit of the doubt, only to realize later that their kindness was nothing more than a mask? Manipulators thrive in these spaces. They do not shout, they whisper. They do not push, they guide until you realize you are standing exactly where they wanted you to be. And by then, you are already entangled in their net. The Stoics warned us against illusions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change." A manipulator, however, has no such humility. They will not seek truth, only advantage. They bend conversations to their favor. They twist silence into agreement. They use guilt, charm, or even pity as weapons. And their greatest trick, they make you feel as if the choice was yours all along. Picture a friend who always seems to need you. At first, it feels good to be useful. You lend money, you lend time, you lend energy. Yet notice the pattern. When you are drained, they vanish. When you succeed, they grow distant. But when they fall, suddenly you are their savior again. This is not friendship. It is a transaction in disguise. And each time you comply, you are not giving love, you are trading away your peace. So how does one defend against such shadows? Not with paranoia, not with cruelty, but with awareness. Begin by listening to the discomfort in your own chest. Notice when conversations leave you feeling smaller, more doubtful, less free. Watch for the inconsistencies, words that sound sweet, but actions that leave you unsettled. Observe the patterns, how they always stand to gain while you are left carrying the weight. Seneca taught that he who is everywhere is nowhere. Apply this to manipulators. Their loyalty is to no one but themselves. Do not expect consistency. Expect only calculation. That is why boundaries are not optional here. They are lifelines. Speak clearly. Name the behavior when it appears. And if your clarity is met with more games, then silence and distance become your shield. I once knew a man whose charm could light up a table. Everyone wanted to sit near him to hear his stories, but those who got closest carried invisible scars. He borrowed endlessly, promised more, returned little. When confronted, he'd laugh it off, turning blame into a joke. Some stayed, hoping the warmth would return. I chose to leave. And in leaving, I discovered that my peace was worth more than any performance of friendship. This is the essence of Stoic strength, not to harden the heart, but to honor it. To recognize when a bond is poison and to walk away, even if it leaves you standing alone for a time. Trust is sacred. Do not hand it to those who see it only as currency. When you spot the strings, cut them. When you feel the weight, set it down. And as you do, remember this: protecting your integrity is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is choosing not to be moved like a pawn across someone else's board. And from here, we turn toward another figure, less subtle, but just as corrosive: the critic, who cloaks their own bitterness in the disguise of truth. Moving into the second chapter, picture yourself sitting by a fire while voices around you begin to twist the air. At first, it sounds like harmless chatter, but soon the words grow sharp, slicing into the absent, tearing down those not there to defend themselves. You feel it, the heaviness, the subtle poison that lingers long after the laughter fades. Now ask yourself, what does criticism truly reveal? The Stoics would tell us it exposes more about the critic than the target. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know anything about the subject." When someone delights in speaking poorly of others, their words shine not on the one attacked, but on the storyteller himself. Like a torch turned inward, it burns away their mask and reveals their insecurity, their envy, their smallness. Imagine a medieval village where gossip is currency. Troublemakers gather like jesters in a square, weaving rumors to mask their own idleness. They are not building homes, not tending fields, not protecting their families. They are pointing, laughing, whispering, hoping that if they dim another's light, no one will notice the darkness within their own. This pattern is not confined to history. It plays out every day in workplaces, families, even friendships. Some people thrive not on growth, but on tearing down the growth of others. I once knew a colleague who had a strange gift. No matter whose name came up, he could find a flaw. Someone was too ambitious, another was too lazy, a third was untrustworthy. At first I mistook it for honesty, even wit. But over time I noticed he built nothing. His own projects faltered, his promises evaporated, his friendships thinned. And then I realized his criticism was never about truth. It was a shield, a disguise for his own lack of substance. Seneca warned us, "What you think of yourself is much more important than what others think of you." The gossip has inverted this wisdom. They speak not from self-respect, but from self-contempt. They are desperate to distract from the emptiness they feel, so they fill the silence with noise, hoping no one notices their quiet despair. But once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Every insult is a confession. Every rumor is a mirror. So what should you do when you encounter such a voice? First, resist the urge to join. Words are seeds, and when you repeat their venom, you plant the same poison in your own garden. Second, hold your distance, not in cruelty, but in clarity. A sailor who sees storm clouds does not hate the storm, he simply steers his vessel away. Choose your companions as carefully as a traveler chooses the road ahead, because here is the truth. Those who easily speak poorly of others will one day speak poorly of you. Their tongue does not change direction when you walk away, it only changes targets. Protect your dignity by refusing to become the next subject of their theater. And as you step away from the critic's echo, prepare yourself. For the next mask we face is not the sharp tongue, but the smiling face, the one who greets everyone with warmth, yet leaves you wondering whether any of it was ever real. Advancing to the third character, picture the one who enters every room with a radiant smile, arms open, ready to help at a moment's notice. Their presence feels like sunlight, warm and inviting, and people flock to them as if to a hearth on a cold night. And yet, beneath that glow, something unsettles you. For a flame that burns for everyone often burns for no one in particular. Have you ever stood beside someone who seemed to know everyone's name but forgot the weight of yours? It is a strange feeling to be embraced in public but invisible in private. These are the companions who chase approval like moths circling a lantern. They thrive on applause, not intimacy. To them, you are not a friend, but a number added to their audience. The smile is wide, but the roots of loyalty are shallow. The Stoics would remind us that appearances deceive. Epictetus warned, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." The man or woman who cannot bear to lose face, who must always maintain the mask of popularity, is rarely interested in truth. Their kindness is currency, their charm an investment, their friendship conditional on how well you serve their image. I once knew a woman whose laughter filled every hall. Everyone wanted her presence at dinners, at meetings, at parties. She was the connector, the bridge, the one who seemed to belong everywhere. But I noticed something. She remembered the names of powerful people, but often stumbled on the names of those with nothing to offer. One day, when a quieter friend fell into hardship, she vanished. No calls, no visits. The flame that had burned so brightly for the crowd went dark in the face of real need. Seneca said, "A friend to all is a friend to none." These words cut deep because they reveal the truth we hesitate to face. Trust is not built in crowds, but in silence. It is not proven by smiles, but by sacrifice. A person who needs constant attention cannot sit alone, and someone who cannot sit alone cannot sit with you fully either. So be cautious with those who dazzle every room. Their energy may feel magnetic, but magnets attract and repel in equal measure. Today, you are the one they draw close. Tomorrow, without warning, you may be replaced by another face, another voice, another admirer. Do not confuse popularity with loyalty. Do not confuse friendliness with friendship. The lesson here is not to harden your heart, but to open your eyes. Cherish those who stay when the crowd has gone, who see you when no one else is watching. These are the companions worthy of trust. The others, those who shine for all, leave them to their stage. And from here we must turn toward another disguise, subtler still, the one who pretends to listen, but whose silence is emptier than words. Here's where our path takes us to a quieter, subtler figure, the one who nods while you speak, but whose eyes drift elsewhere. You feel it at once, though nothing is said. Their gaze slides toward their phone. Their answers are hollow. "I understand. That's true." And you realize you might as well be speaking into an empty room. Few things cut deeper than offering your thoughts, your stories, your heart, and finding no one truly there to receive them. Now imagine telling someone about a struggle that has weighed on you for weeks. You expect empathy, or at least attention. Instead, they scroll through their notifications, smile absently, and murmur a vague reply. The words fall flat. The silence afterward is louder than anything you said. You are left not only unheard, but unseen. What is conversation, if not the meeting of souls? And what is it worth when one side has already walked away in spirit? The Stoics valued presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. If life itself is sacred, then so is the time we spend together. To pretend to listen is not just discourteous, it is a theft. It steals moments that will never return. It drains meaning from words that deserved a place to land. I recall a dinner with an old acquaintance. I had traveled far, carrying news I thought important, something I hoped would bring us closer. Yet, every time I began to speak, his eyes flickered toward the glow of his phone. A message, a notification, a distraction. He would glance up, nod and say, "That's interesting." But it was not to him. By the end of the evening, I felt like a ghost sitting across from him, my voice echoing in a chamber where no one truly lived. I never sought another meeting. That night taught me something no book could. Indifference is louder than insult. Seneca once reminded us, life is long if you know how to use it. And so, my friend, why waste yours in conversations that feel like shadows? To pour your time into someone who refuses to be present is to betray your own worth. You are not obliged to keep speaking when no one listens. You are not bound to sit politely while your presence is disregarded. To walk away is not rude, it is self-respect. So here is the lesson: value your words as you would value your breath. Give them only to those who will hold them with care. Do not let false listeners make you doubt your voice. There is dignity in silence, but never in being silenced. And from this point, we turn toward another kind of absence, not of attention, but of compassion, the one who cannot feel what others feel, and in that lack becomes dangerous to trust. From here, let us step into a colder territory, the figure who looks at suffering and feels nothing. Imagine reaching out in pain, hoping for a hand, and instead meeting a stare as blank as stone. There is no pause, no hesitation, no flicker of concern, only calculation, only self-interest. This is the mark of the one who lacks empathy. Now ask yourself, what restrains us from cruelty? What keeps us from striking when anger tempts us, from betraying when gain whispers in our ear? It is empathy, the simple yet profound ability to imagine the wound our actions might leave in another. Without it, the human heart becomes a blade. And some people, my friend, wield that blade without a second thought. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The man who lacks empathy knows this truth, but does not care. He sees only his advantage. He deceives with ease because your trust is just a tool. He harms without guilt because your pain is not his problem. And when the consequences come, he vanishes. Responsibility is a language he does not speak. I once worked alongside someone like this. At first, he seemed sharp, even reliable. But then came the cracks. He borrowed from colleagues and never repaid. He promised support, but disappeared when the moment arrived. When confronted, he smiled and shifted blame, as if accountability were beneath him. Slowly, those around him began to realize he was comfortable living off the cost of others' burdens. To him, people were resources, not companions, and once they were drained, he moved on. The Stoics urged us to measure others not by their charm, but by their character. Seneca reminded us, "A good character, when established, is not easily overthrown, but one who lacks empathy has no such foundation." Their character bends with convenience. They stand on shifting sand, and anyone who leans on them will fall. So what should we do when faced with such a person? First, trust what you see, not what you hope for. If someone is at ease with causing harm, believe it. If they shrug at another's suffering, believe it. Do not weave excuses in your mind, for excuses will not shield you from their next betrayal. Second, guard your circle. Your time, your energy, your trust, these are sacred. Do not hand them to someone who has proven unworthy of the weight. There is power in compassion. There is safety in surrounding yourself with those who feel deeply, who hesitate before they wound, who value your well-being as they do their own. These are the companions who build, who protect, who grow with you. The others, those who lack empathy, bring only harm disguised as indifference. Remember this: a heart that cannot feel for others will one day fail to feel for you, and that truth alone is reason enough to step back. At this stage, we turn from cold indifference to a subtler fire, the one who provokes irritation, who thrives on stirring unrest, even in moments meant for peace. At this stage, we encounter a different kind of figure, the one who seems harmless at first, yet somehow leaves you restless after every exchange. Their presence is like a pebble slipped quietly into your shoe. You walk on, but the irritation grows with every step, and soon the journey itself becomes unbearable. Now imagine sitting in a calm room, the kind where silence should bring peace. Yet one voice keeps poking, not loudly, not rudely, but with tiny jabs, questions that twist your thoughts, comments that cast doubt, gestures that unsettle. You cannot point to a single insult. Still, the air feels heavier, your patience thinner, your peace disturbed. This is the signature of the subtle provoker. Marcus Aurelius once warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The provoker thrives on you forgetting this. They prod until you react. They sow doubt until you second-guess yourself. And all the while, they wear the mask of innocence, as if their words were harmless observations, as if the irritation rising inside you came from nowhere. But you know better. You feel the pattern. I recall working with someone who had this gift for erosion. He never shouted. He never insulted directly. Instead, he questioned every suggestion with a smirk, raised doubts without offering solutions, and made small remarks that lingered long after the conversation ended. At first, I dismissed it. Then I noticed the effect. I left each meeting more drained than inspired, more agitated than focused. It wasn't what he said once. It was what he repeated silently, relentlessly. A slow dripping of water that wears even the hardest stone. Seneca said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Part of that learning is recognizing when your peace is being stolen, not by storms, but by subtle drafts of wind. The provoker plays a quiet, psychological game. Sometimes they do it for amusement, sometimes to feel powerful, sometimes simply because unrest is their natural state, and they cannot stand to see calm in others. Whatever the reason, you do not have to play along. Awareness is your defense. The moment you notice the game, it loses its power. Instead of reacting, you observe. Instead of arguing, you hold silence. You remember that your peace is yours to keep, not theirs to fracture. Like a sailor charting tricky waters, you navigate with steady hands, refusing to be lured into storms that do not exist. This is not weakness, it is mastery. To respond with calm in the face of provocation is to show that your inner fortress is not built of straw, but of stone. And when the provoker realizes their jabs no longer find a mark, the game ends. So remember, irritation is not always born of chance. Sometimes it is planted, watered and nurtured by design. Do not let these seeds take root. Guard your soil, guard your mind, and choose clarity over confusion. From here, we turn toward yet another shadowed figure, the one who carries not subtle games, but endless burdens, the perpetual victim who drags every companion into their storm. Entering the 7th chapter of this journey, imagine a person who carries storms inside them wherever they go. You meet them in the morning, and before you've even shared a smile, they sigh as though life itself has wronged them. You sit with them at lunch, and the conversation turns heavy, soaked in complaints. By evening, you feel their weight pressing onto your own chest, though none of their troubles were yours to begin with. This is the perpetual victim, a person who lives not in the light of possibility, but in the shadow of endless misfortune. Picture sitting across from them. You bring your energy, your presence, your willingness to listen. Within minutes, you are engulfed in stories of unfair bosses, ungrateful partners, cruel friends, and endless bad luck. Their words tumble out like stones, heavy and sharp, piling onto the table between you. At first, compassion stirs in you. You nod, you comfort, you offer advice. But soon you notice something unsettling. Nothing ever changes. The same stories repeat, as though life is stuck on a loop. Their wounds do not heal because they do not want them to. Misery has become their identity, and to lose it would be to lose themselves. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But the perpetual victim rejects this power. Instead of looking inward, they point outward. Every mistake is someone else's fault. Every downfall is the world's injustice. And because they refuse to take responsibility, they repeat the same errors again and again. They are trapped, not by fate, but by their own unwillingness to rise. And anyone who walks too closely with them risks being trapped as well. I knew a man like this years ago. Each time we met, he carried a fresh disaster. One day it was money, the next it was betrayal, the next it was health. But what I noticed was this: he did nothing to change. He borrowed money but never repaid it. He trusted liars but ignored warnings. He ignored opportunities and then cursed fate when doors closed. At first, I believed him unlucky. Later, I realized he was addicted to the role of the victim. Misery gave him attention, and that attention was enough to keep the cycle alive. Being his friend felt like being caught in quicksand. The harder I tried to help, the deeper I sank. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The perpetual victim inverts this wisdom. They suffer in reality because their imagination is too small, too chained to the past. They do not see the lesson in hardship. They only see the wound. And their refusal to grow makes every storm permanent. To stay near them is to risk drowning in waters they stir themselves. The Stoics remind us to carry our own burdens with courage, but also to recognize what is not ours to carry. Compassion is noble, but pity without boundaries becomes poison. You may feel tempted to rescue them, to lend your strength to hold them up. But beware, their weight is bottomless, their need endless. You cannot save someone who refuses to swim. And if you are not careful, their struggles will become your chains. So what do? You learn to step back. You learn to say no without guilt. You realize that your peace is worth more than their performance of suffering. This does not make you cruel, it makes you clear. You can care without carrying. You can wish them well while walking away. For your life has enough storms of its own, storms that demand your strength, your courage, your presence. Sometimes the kindest act is distance. Sometimes the truest compassion is silence. And as we leave this figure behind, let us prepare for another shadow. The smiling face that praises you to your face, but behind your back scatters your name like ash on the wind. Now imagine stepping into the eighth character of our journey, the one who greets you with warmth, praises you with charm, and looks you straight in the eye as if nothing could ever divide you. Yet, the moment you turn your back, their tongue becomes a blade. They whisper, they distort, they scatter seeds of doubt into every ear willing to listen. In front of you, they smile. Behind you, they bleed your name into the ground. Here's where the danger lies. Duplicity wears a mask too well. At first, you believe the kindness. You believe the admiration. You let your guard down, thinking you have found an ally. But then fragments of gossip drift back to you. A story slightly bent, a detail twisted, a private word retold in a circle where it never belonged. And suddenly, you realize the betrayal cuts deeper, not because of the words, but because of the disguise that hid them. The Stoics valued honesty above all. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The two-faced companion lives in defiance of this wisdom. They wear one truth for the day, another for the night. They are not at peace, for deceit is heavy, and duplicity corrodes from within. Yet while their inner life collapses, their poison spreads outward, through relationships, through trust, through the delicate fabric that binds community together. I remember a colleague who embodied this role too perfectly. In meetings, he praised my work with enthusiasm, calling me dependable, talented, committed. But whispers soon reached me that outside those walls, he painted a very different picture, questioning my decisions, mocking my choices, casting shadows on my name. For a while, I felt anger. Then I realized his duplicity was not truly about me. It was about him, a mask for insecurity, a game to keep himself relevant. But still, the lesson burned. Proximity to such a person is always costly. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." There is courage in honesty, in standing firm with a single face. The two-faced lack that bravery. They are not free, they are slaves to appearances, prisoners of fear. And when you stand too close, they will try to make you part of their prison too. So what should you do when you recognize this duplicity? Do not linger. Do not rationalize. A person who gossips about others in your presence will gossip about you in your absence. That truth is certain. Protecting your peace means knowing when to withdraw. To cut ties is not cruelty, it is clarity. Distance is not punishment, it is preservation. Remember, the Stoics taught us that we cannot control the mouths of others, only the integrity of our own lives. You do not need to silence the gossip, you only need to refuse its company. In doing so, you affirm your worth, your dignity, your right to live unpoisoned by deceit. So walk away from the two faced with calm. Let them drown in their own contradictions while you preserve your steadiness. And as you do, prepare yourself for the final figure in this gallery of caution, the openly toxic individual whose very presence spreads shadows and whose absence may be the greatest gift of all. Advancing to the ninth and final figure in this journey, we come face to face with the most corrosive of all, the toxic individual. Their presence is like smoke in a closed room. At first, it is faint, almost unnoticeable, but soon it fills your lungs, clouds your vision, and leaves you gasping for air you once took for granted. Now imagine walking into a space where laughter should rise naturally, where ideas should flow freely. Yet one voice turns everything heavy. A small criticism here, a sarcastic jab there, an endless stream of doubt and disdain. Soon your energy shrinks, your confidence fades, even light seems to struggle in their presence. That is the power of toxicity. It contaminates everything it touches. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But toxic people thrive on planting thoughts that corrode. They feed you subtle messages that you are not enough, that your dreams are foolish, that your worth must be measured against their approval. Their words are chains, and their silence is no less cruel. Left unchecked, their influence seeps into your mind, turning doubts into truths and insecurities into identities. I once worked under a manager who carried this energy like a storm cloud. Every idea was met with mockery. Every effort was dismissed as inadequate. People entered the office with hope, but left drained, shoulders slumped, eyes dulled. It wasn't the work, it was him. Over time, talented colleagues left one by one. Those who stayed shrank into shadows of themselves, afraid to speak, afraid to try. The air itself was poisoned. And in that moment I realized toxicity is not just unpleasant, it is destructive. Seneca warned, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." To remain in the orbit of the toxic is to accept corrosion as normal. They will not grow for you. They will not stop for you, and so the responsibility falls on you to draw the boundary, to recognize the infection before it spreads further into your own soul. The Stoics teach us that self-respect begins with clarity. You cannot demand respect from others while tolerating those who sabotage your peace. Setting boundaries is not arrogance, it is survival. To say, "This is not acceptable," is to declare that your mind, your time, and your heart are worthy of protection. And when words fail, silence and distance must take their place. But here's the deeper truth. Toxic people lose their power the moment you stop giving them your energy. Their criticism finds no soil when you refuse to absorb it. Their manipulation falters when you see it for what it is. Their presence weakens when your steps carry you away. Freedom begins not with changing them, but with guarding yourself. So, my friend, be ruthless in protecting your peace. Life is too short to keep breathing in someone else's smoke. Do not try to heal someone who thrives on harm. Do not sacrifice your joy to save someone unwilling to leave their darkness. Recognize them, step back, and let your life breathe again. And as we close this exploration of 9 figures unworthy of your trust, let this final lesson anchor in your heart. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Choose carefully, guard fiercely, because when your circle is free of poison, your soul is free to rise. If there is another kind of person we did not mention, I invite you to share it in the comments. And if you have faced one of the 9 we explored, your story may help someone else recognize the same patterns and find the courage to protect themselves. What you share has the power to guide more than you imagine. Trust is one of the rarest treasures we hold. It is not endless, and it should never be given carelessly. To protect it is to respect yourself. To withdraw it from those who misuse it is not cruelty, but clarity. The Stoics taught that while we cannot control the behavior of others, we can always choose the boundaries that protect our peace. And that choice shapes the quality of our days, the strength of our mind, and the calm of our soul. If this message resonates, write "Stay aware" in the comments. It will serve as a reminder that awareness itself is a shield. And if you wish to continue strengthening this shield, take a moment to subscribe. It is not an obligation, but a way to keep walking together through lessons that help you remain steady when life tests you. Another video is waiting for you now. Watch it next. And remember, when you guard your peace, you rise with strength, and every boundary you honor becomes a step toward freedom.